Yeah, I mean, I almost think it's the other way around. I think it's kind of what we had ideated was a show set in the MonsterVerse that worked as a television show that wasn't a scaled down, compromised weekly monster mash 'em up or monster hunt. We wanted to take advantage of the medium of television as a storytelling engine to put a show about real people that we cared about and wanted to learn about and wanted to spend time with in this bigger than big, crazy, awful, amazing world.
Yeah, and I think to Legendary's credit, they were like, we know we want to do this. We have this incredibly valuable franchise. We would love to expand it into the television sphere, but it's got to be great. What we don't want is the cheap TV version of our movies.
Right.
You know, the bar is set too high, and I think, and one of the reasons I love working with Legendary is they really are very creative friendly, and they're like, it's your job to tell us what the great version of this is.
Yeah.
You know, that's why we hire creatives and writers, and they were very collaborative and supportive, and us coming and saying, we want to tell a story about this family. We want to tell a multi-generational saga about the formation of Monarch and how the sins of the fathers are visited upon their children. And it's that story that is the spine of a 10-episode television show. And oh, by the way, as they go on this adventure, searching for their father, the monsters keep getting in the way. And they were like, that sounds like a show to us.
Yeah. As writers, it was the people. As fans, it was the world. You know, the canonical Legendary films, the MonsterVerse films, were kind of our guideposts, fence posts, whatever. And there are big gaps in that timeline. From a few shots in the opening credits of Godzilla 2014 to the opening of Kong Skull Island, there's been a spectacular fall. And then from the opening of 2014, where they are a mysterious, mythical, whispered about fringe science operation, to King of the Monsters 2019, they are global protectors. They're being called out in front of the Senate, in front of committees and all this stuff. So there were just big question marks. And what was Monarch's arc, right? Like, how did Monarch start? How did they get to this? How did the largest nuclear test the United States military ever executed, how was that done at the behest of Monarch? And then how did that lead 15 years later to John Goodman, hat in hand, begging for a ride on a helicopter? There was enough questions and blanks and mysteriousness that it felt, oh, this is really rich. We can really build out this world by exploring that question.
Well, and that's what TV is.
Yeah.
It's not that the movies had done anything wrong or that there was anything missing. It was, television is different. It's like you're telling a 10-hour mythology, versus a 2-hour, 2.5-hour movie. And suddenly you have, the real estate to tell those stories and let them breathe and introduce new characters and have them evolve and have it go over generations. And it wasn't so much like, oh, they didn't do this. It was like, they didn't do it because they were making movies, but we can do it because we're making a TV show.
And part of the reason we wanted to set it right after 2014, it was no longer about, is this real? No, it's a Godzilla movie. Godzilla's real. It's why you go see the Godzilla movie. The guy's running around Godzilla movies not believing it's happening. It's kind of a drag. So the thing is setting it right after that, like, oh, the whole world has changed. What does that look like?
As you quite rightly pointed out, the Godzilla and the kaiju of the MonsterVerse have always been sort of, existential allegories for whatever the threat, coming out of post-war Japan when we first see Godzilla in the early 50s, and then, you get into the 60s and 70s, and they're sometimes about ecological disaster or environmental degradation, and then, I think if you're looking at our modern age, I think you could pick. Obviously climate change and global warming is a very real and current issue. And we were producing this show in the middle of a global pandemic. So, I mean, it wasn't something we made up. I mean, it was happening as we were working on the show. But I think the other thing about Godzilla is he represents personal demons for our characters as well. We always talk about in the pilot episode, what you discover at the end of the pilot is Kate's monster isn't Godzilla. Kate's monster is her father.
Godzilla destroyed her city, and Hiroshi kind of destroys her life. and it's a terrible secret that comes to light at the worst possible time, and that's just compelling drama.
Yeah, absolutely.
But to me, it's about student loan debt. It's about crippling student loan debt.
He's a Rorschach test, really.
Yeah, you can project. That's the beauty. You can project whatever
Yes.
whatever terrifies you.
I think that's absolutely right.